Cool. I think we are live officially for our November roundtable. Kind of bananas that it's November already. I feel like it was just July, basically April, so pretty much February. So this is absolutely bananas that it's November, and I'm super excited that we're talking about systems that sustain working parenthood because we all need systems to support us because there's just a bajillion things going on. And so thank you everyone for joining us. I'm Alexa Starks. If you've joined before, you know that these conversations are more than just burnout or balance. And today we're specifically talking about building better systems that make working parenthood actually possible. And so in our past roundtables, we've actually talked about, redefining leadership and mental health and the future of work. But today we're doing things a little bit differently. And so I'm going to call this session like a systems sprint. It's going to be a rapid fire, high energy conversation with really incredible leaders and founders and change makers. And we're basically talking about how do we make working parenthood sustainable. So I'm going to throw out a series of like rapid fire, quick fire questions. Each guest will just have like a couple minutes or one word to share your best idea or bold truth or favorite system. So before we jump in, I would love to have our amazing panelists introduce themselves. And I'm going to start on my right with Brandy. Please share a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay, well, hi, my name is Brandy. Thank you so much for having me here today. I am based in Seattle, Washington, and I'm a proud mom to 2 young kids. I have spent over a decade in the people and culture space, and my passion is really in building community and connection through programs and systems where people can bring their full selves to work, where they feel seen and valued and genuinely supported.
I love that. That's amazing. And thank you so much for being here and joining us today from Seattle. And I'm going to go around. Jay Vest, you're next, please.
Well, hey, everyone. And I echo Brandy's sentiments. Thanks so much for inviting me to this platform, Alexa. I'm not a mom. I am building Stork Fund, however, which is the first of its kind financial platform that's dedicated to helping parents anticipate what's around the corner, save for it, and navigate it. And so a lot of the sort of tips and tricks and tools that I'll be sharing today come from moms that I speak with. I spend so much of my time talking to moms because ultimately we're just trying to build a platform that serves moms and helps them show up in different ways better, both as moms and also as, employees or as mompreneurs and as leaders in their communities. So really excited to be here and, hope it's really helpful for those tuning in.
Amazing. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Talitha.
Thank you, Alexa. Hi, everyone. Good morning. I'm Talitha Davis. I am a mom to a 4.5-year-old, and motherhood rocked my world and almost like radicalized me in a way. So I'm very excited for this conversation. I already told Alexa I'm going to do my best to behave. And I am a sales consultant. So I work with founders in small business to help stand up their sales teams and basically develop a really elegant and non-hustle way of streamlining your sales.
I love that. Okay, so this is super exciting. I don't know if everyone else has figured this out, but we have this trifecta here, or maybe it's a square actually. What's the square version of a trifecta? I don't know, but this trifecta of the workplace and like employee well-being and workplace culture and policies that support parents. And then we've got the financial aspect of parenting and how to support parents financially. And then like more entrepreneurship, business focused, how to help parents who are also entrepreneurs grow and sustain the businesses in their life. And so it's this beautiful, that's not a triangle, trifecta. And so I want to start with I'm going to set 30 seconds. I'm going to actually set a timer. I'm going to actually set a timer, you guys, not 30 minutes, 30 seconds. Okay. We're going to do rapid fire rounds. And Brandy, we're going to start with you because again, you're on my right, and then I'll switch this up for the next ones. But I want to know, because we're getting towards the end of this year, what's one system at work or at home that has really saved you? Whether that's, saved you in some manner, some way. Like, what's one system that's been incredibly beneficial for you? And go.
At work, it's time blocking. So my mornings are very chaotic. I once showed up to the doctor office in my slippers after dropping the kids off. So I always block the first hour of my morning just to get acclimated and figure out the rest of my day. And I also block out the last hour of my day just to tie up any loose ends.
It's amazing. I love it. And that was a fast 22 seconds. Time blocking. I love that. All right, Javis, same question to you. What's one system that has really saved you at work or at home this year?
Yeah. I spend a lot of time in London. And so what that ends up meaning is that I have all my mornings to myself. And so what has become really great for me is using that time very smartly, whether it's to plan, whether it's to do the kind of heavy lifting work before my team gets on board, whether it's to take care of all of the things that I didn't quite finish yesterday. Because I'm not a morning person, waking up earlier to do those things isn't something that's as natural to me as I wish it was. But finding the quiet space in the morning, sort of before your day picks up, I know that that's really challenging for some parents because they've already lived several lives by the time, they get to their desk and start working. But I think even before you start working, dedicating a little bit of time to just strategy, organizing, goal setting for the day really just sets the tone and helps you achieve the things that you say that you need to achieve that day.
I love it. Yeah, that is super important for everyone, parents and non-parents, but it really helps you set better prioritization of tasks that will get you the most ROI for your day towards your goals. All right, Talitha, same question. What's one system that's really saved you this year?
Yeah, so mine was more of a belief system that I shifted this year. So I used to operate under the illusion of capacity. I thought about capacity in terms of my own internal ability, capability, or limitations to get something done. And this year I really shifted towards, I adopted a new belief system. To me, capacity is infrastructure. It is what are the things, the systems that we're going to be talking about today that actually set me up for success. And so, and this happened because I noticed that I was working 2 full-time jobs, and it came at the expense of my mental health, as it does for I think most parents. And so the systems that my husband and I adopted were a shared calendar, really explicit, predefined division of labor. I want to know at the beginning of the week who's doing drop-offs and who's doing pickups, because if we don't nail that, then it often defaults to me. So having that shared calendar, having an explicit division of labor, and then having something built in so that I can ask for help before I need it. So we have like 2 nights a month where we have either a nanny or we're swapping childcare with another one of our parent friends. And so that kind of adopting that belief system and reframing what capacity meant for us as a household was kind of a game changer and a lifeline this year.
I think that's so important in that we don't do enough is acknowledging capacity, and that our capacity can shift and change throughout the month, throughout the day, even. And I know this is something I talk about a lot with moms returning to work, is that your capacity at 3 months postpartum and the work that you're going to do is going to be vastly different than when you're a year postpartum or even 8 months postpartum. And so that's the more we can normalize our capacity and ask for help and set up systems to help make that easier, the better it is, and it more normalizes that. So I love that. Okay, the next question I want to talk about is what's one thing that you wish every leader knew about working parents? And Javis, I'm going to pass it over to you. What's one thing you wish every leader knew about working parents or working parenthood?
Yeah, I think that, and this is really essential to what we're building at Storkfund as well. I think the idea that support is iterative. I think sometimes problems, particularly if you're a leader, seem almost insurmountable because you're like, well, how do I get these people to work the hours and come into work and be productive and not have gaps during the day and also support their colleagues and also be leaders as it relates to other colleagues behind them. And all of that can seem like one big sort of challenge. And I think that leaders should understand that support is iterative. Sometimes unlocking one thing for one person has such an immediate and a compounding impact, not just on that person, but on other people within the team and then the division. And so start thinking, I know this might sound ironic, but start thinking small. There's so many low-hanging ways that organizations can show up. Be nicer, be kinder, those sorts of things, be more flexible, but all with the idea that this might feel very small to me, but what this unlocks for the person that I'm assisting could be extra productivity for me, could be extra productivity for my team, means they'll show up in different ways. And so it's not always, really big infrastructural changes that are needed. If you have a challenge that's in front of you and you think that there's a solution that's quite big, then definitely try to navigate that, but also think, what can I do in the interim that might seem very small to me, but actually probably can have a really profound impact, or at least be a Band-Aid until we fix this sort of bigger structural challenge.
I love that. I think it's we're going to get into this in a few minutes, but the ripple effects of supporting parents in the workplace, and that it's more than just like an advantage or something that one person gets, but it really helps
Yes.
that person bring their whole self to work and enable more productivity, better teamwork, being able to show up your full self. So we'll get into that in another moment. So thank you so much for bringing that up. Real quick, Talitha, I'm going to ask you that question of what's one thing you wish every leader knew about working parents.
I wish that they knew, or that everyone there's this universal treatment that supporting parents is not a favor, it's strategic. It's a retention and a performance strategy. Every single parent I know struggles with the internal conflict of, wanting to excel at both. And I think that we can, but it's such a superpower. Like we are handling complex systems at home and at work, and out of necessity, prioritization and clarity just become this sort of superpower. It is a survival mechanism and a superpower, and that's an asset on teams and in organizations and to our clients. And so, instead of thinking about it as, oh man, Julie's gone for, half an hour during the day, to reframe that and to, just shift our thinking around that.
And I think, that goes back to the systems that enable working parents to succeed in things like asynchronous tools like ClickUp, Asana, Monday, so that after the kids go to bed, I can pick up work in the evening and work from, 8 to 10 and wrap up anything I needed to and show to my team that I did everything I needed to do for the day, so that you're not offline working half a job. You're actually working throughout the day. It's just taking chunks off to be with your kid and do like 2 full-time jobs. And so that's definitely one of the systems that allows parents to still show up in their full job. Brandy, I want to ask you a different question. If you could rewrite one workplace policy to really support parents, what would it be?
Yeah, for me, I had a very traumatic birth experience. And so coming back from leave was, I went 0 to 100, and that was really hard for me. So I would love to see phased return options, or even options to return part-time. There was just a lot to process. And I felt at the time I kind of had to hide those parts of me. And it was really, really difficult.
Why do you think phased returns are not more of a thing? Because I agree, it's a phenomenal idea, but they're not that common.
Yeah, I feel like we just need to start asking for it, right? We're kind of like stuck in our old ways, and it's conversations like these that help encourage change, and maybe HR leaders are not thinking about this. And so I think bringing these conversations to the table are really important to rewrite these changes.
I agree. It's, And I think it really helps with that sustainability, because we see so many women burn out really quickly trying to return to work and pretend that we're fine. And I
Mhm.
think that one of the systemic issues that parents face is constantly pretending that you're fine and that you're not parents from 9 to 5. That there's not also a whole other life that you have where you're constantly thinking about, what groceries do I need to buy for dinner tonight? What am I going to make for dinner tonight? My kid's coming down with the sniffles, so need to potentially plan that maybe they're going to be out of school tomorrow or the day after, or the flu is going around. You always get that text of like, the flu is going around daycare, and it's like, ugh, okay, when's it going to hit our family?
Yeah.
And there's these systemic issues that we're pretending we're fine when we show up at work, and we're not. And we need systems and workplaces that allow us to still be a parent 24/7 and an employee and get our job done. And that may not always look like 9 to 5. It may look like 7 to 9, and then 10 to 12, and then 2 to 4, and then like 7:30 to 11 or something like that. So,
Yeah.
Talitha, have you, in your experience, like, when we talk about a lot of the big shift to entrepreneurship that we see, in that lack of sustainability of corporations, right? The lack of flexibility of the workplaces. Has that been a big factor that you've seen with other business owners as like a reason they've pivoted?
Yeah, you mean a reason they've left corporate?
Yes.
Yeah, it's a contributing factor to why I left. Like I felt like I had a really supportive, I worked at a supportive company, but I was the only mother, or the only mother to small kids at the company. And so, I wanted to leave for more freedom and more flexibility. And I knew that entrepreneurship could give that to me, because there was this element of guilt of feeling like, damn, everyone else is like, they're on stand up at 8 a.m. and I just cannot do that at 8 a.m. 8 a.m. is like go
Mhm.
time with the family. And so there is definitely that. I also feel like we should treat a return from mat leave like we're re-onboarding people. There is no sort of there's the expectation of, yeah, you just came from your mat leave and now you're going to return as though nothing happened. A year has
Mhm.
gone by in some cases. If you're in Canada and you took your full year, a year has gone by. Like we need to reintroduce and reintegrate people and have like
Yeah.
milestones. So I think, yeah, I do see a lot of people leaving corporate, or at least a lot of the women that I support. They've done that in pursuit of more flexibility and more autonomy because they were not getting it at their workplace. And I do wonder if we did a better job of re-onboarding or whatever that reintegration looks like, would that attrition rate be the same? I don't know.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I agree. I mean, that's what my mission is to help with that return to work experience. And
Mhm.
that's because it's such a rough time,
It's
and
jarring.
it is. And I wonder, because I think the hardest part or the scariest part of leaving corporation is the monetary aspect, the financial aspect of it, and leaving a paycheck and steady, stable income. Um, but also, children are very expensive. Diapers are insanely expensive. Um, Formula is incredibly expensive. Daycare is expensive. And so, Javis, I really want to get into more about how what workplaces can do, how we can partner with you and Stork Fund, and what, like, how we can make family planning more affordable, not just like a survival.
Yeah. I mean, hopefully I'm not pegged at 30 seconds because my God, this just gets
Go
it.
for it. Go
This
for
just
it.
gets at the heart of the challenge that is in front of us and really the work that we're doing every single day. I think that where we start from at Stork Fund is really with the family, in a lot of instances, the mom. And it's the idea that before you have a family, you don't know it, but there is time on your side, and you can start to prepare for some of these things. And what we're trying to do with Stork Fund is that once you're a part of our community as a mom, it's really our job now to start thinking about that for you, to take some of that mental load off for you, to sort of suggest to you, here's what's around the corner. You're pregnant. What are you doing about breastfeeding? Because by the way, that does require infrastructure, especially if you want to do it for a period of time. What are you doing about night nursing support? That could be something that helps you regulate your systems and your baby's system, and that ultimately helps you navigate your own transition back to work better. By the way, what are you doing for a coach? And, do you have the support that you need and someone that's already gone through it that can share some insights with you so you don't have to learn and go through the fire sort of on your own? But all of those things takes financial resources, and I think so many people price themselves out of it because they think these are tools that are available for the 1%, right? I can't afford this. My insurance doesn't cover it. And the difference between being able to access these tools and resources, again, because they unlock all of these other opportunities for you, might be, 2 to 3 months worth of consistent saving, behavior. It might be a match from your employer. It might be converting some of the things that, you received during your baby shower into cash, or receiving cash instead so that you can spend it on these kinds of services. And so we really want to spend time putting that together for parents so we can say, this is where you are in your parenting journey. These are the financial milestones ahead of you. Believe it or not, they're achievable, especially if you know what's around the corner, because you can then leverage that time that you have to start planning and mapping out your priorities. And then one of the things that we see and that we hear is that if you navigate one sort of challenge in a certain way, you limit the likelihood that other challenges will arise, right? Like so much of the financial strain of parenting, for example, comes from childcare, which is obviously very expensive. But before you start paying for childcare, you've probably been out on leave. You've probably, gone into debt or incurred some sort of debt for your leave because your job didn't fully pay you, or you were on FMLA, which is 100% unpaid. And so when we start to break these down into components, you start to realize that actually, if I had prepared for leave, maybe not childcare, I wouldn't have gone into debt. So I could afford childcare, or I could have stayed home longer so that I got the childcare that I wanted. Or I avoided that sort of very expensive 0 to 2, childcare period because I planned and I saved and I stayed home for a little bit longer. Everybody has a different idea of what their parenting life looks like. And we're just trying to map that to real financial strategy. So many people are saving for retirement. I think everybody is pretty much. And before you retire, you'll have a family. And it's just not in our financial strategy to start preparing for that in the very same consistent strategic way that we do for our family life cycle expenses. And employers can join in that. They can contribute to your Stork Fund, just like they contribute to your 401k. And that's the world that we're trying to build, just reshaping how people think about, their financial journeys and setting themselves up for success as parents in that way.
I love that. And I want to ask I don't know if loaded is the right word, but I'm going to ask a loaded question. Why should companies care? Why should they invest any more money in a set of employees, just parents? Like why, corporations are meant to maximize profits and revenue for their shareholders and all of that. Why bother putting any more money into employees?
Mm-hmm. Is this one for me? Because I love this question.
Go for it. Go for it.
I almost would flip the question on its head, because when you look at the data, it's surprising that they don't care, because it's so obvious that a little bit of investment in this particular area goes such a long way. Because again, it's not just about the employees that are parents, it's about the employees that are not parents, how they feel. When Brandy was talking about the transition back to work, if you think about it from someone that's not a parent, part of the reason the handoff happens so quickly is because they're thinking, whew, I've probably been doing like a job and a half. And so
Mm-hmm.
their productivity has also been impacted. I mean, the numbers are astounding. Women are leaving the workforce. The cost of replacing productive employees is more than 2 times their salary. People are
Mm-hmm.
spending hours of work, financially stressed, which is impacting their productivity. The numbers are so staggering, they sound ridiculous. I mean, you can look
Yeah.
at study after study, it's in the billions and or in the trillions. And that's not even taking into account what happens when women leave the workforce. They don't have spending power. So whatever you're making probably needs women and families to consume it at the very end. And they're not as able to purchase as they used to be. They are not, contributing to their 401ks like they should because they're out of the
Mm-hmm.
workforce, which all of that is like generative and cyclical because we're all, connected. And so really the idea is that if you are interested in your profits and you are trying to optimize for productivity and you are trying to support your employees that aren't parents, so much of that is really connected to how are you supporting parents? Because, depending on whether you're talking about families that have one parent working or both parents working, a significant part of our working environment or the working population are parents. And the issue becomes
Mm-hmm.
even more challenging if you're talking about parents where only one person is working.
Right.
And so organizations that want to succeed, I think, need to start thinking about this in a very strategic way. But I think we've built systems that are just so difficult to change that that's why they're not changing. It's not because people don't realize
Mm-hmm.
how much is being lost.
Yeah, I agree, and I think, you know, we've seen this past year a lot of companies get their DEI budgets slashed, and I know this is usually included in some of that DEI work, about like inclusive policies or even workshops that support parents. And so, Brandy, I'm curious because we're talking about the ripple effect of supporting one group and the benefit that it has across entire teams when someone can show up fully and not be stressed about 100 things going on in parenthood, um, and how workplaces can support and provide, additional like stork fund 401k and just helping provide different parent friendly assets and resources and all of that. Is this something that is HR and workplaces, are they aware of the ripple effects that generally happen when you support one group of people and the ripple effect to whole teams and companies and bottom line performances? Or is it less, is there less awareness, do you think?
I think it depends on the leadership team.
Mm.
I have worked for some great leadership teams that are parents and just get that when parents are supported, every person succeeds and the business succeeds. And then I've worked with other companies where there's a lot of ego involved and they don't see that, which is really hard. But in my eyes and through the data that I've seen is that when parents are supported, retention stabilizes, engagement increases, there's more innovation. Being a parent, I am working with a bigger purpose. I have my kids in mind. And so when I show up to work, it's an outlet for me and it's something that I'm deeply passionate about. And I have never been more efficient in my life than after becoming a parent because I do have this bigger purpose.
I love it. Yeah, the efficiency, the amount you can get done in very limited time.
Yeah.
It's like a nap
If I can
window.
negotiate, yeah, if I can negotiate with a 3-year-old, I feel like I can do it.
Yes, yes. I mean, I'm in the middle of negotiating my toddler to stay in bed and go to bed, and I'm not always winning every night. But I want to move into more rapid fire questions again, and I'm going to throw a totally unprepared one at you guys. But I want to know, I know we talked about like what's a system that saved you, but in your opinion, what's the best or most important system that a parent needs to be successful?
I think community for me.
Mm.
It's knowing that I'm not doing it alone. It's having conversations like this. I am really fortunate to live on a street. We have 25 kids.
Whoa.
There's a few of us moms that are in the weeds with our toddlers, and it was Veterans Day the other day, and school and daycare were shut down, and we met up outside, and we're like, oh, it's just like so nice to see another adult and have that interaction. But I feel like community is a big piece.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I figured that out until just recently about how important community is, especially since I moved a lot. So I didn't have like a mom group of other moms. So when I was postpartum, I was like Googling everything just on my own. Like, I don't know if this is normal.
Yeah.
All right, Talitha, over to you. What's the most important system?
I would say universal and accessible, affordable childcare. Like that is what we need. I live in a really expensive city with incredibly long wait lists for childcare, and you could easily spend 50 grand after tax income for daycare, for like a nanny or a daycare, and that would be like a nanny share. So I really view it as critical infrastructure of a country. I think governments should be providing it. I'm lucky that I live in Canada and we just rolled out $10 a day daycare, or we did a couple years ago. However, incredibly long wait lists. But like, to me, that's what we need to be thinking about. Childcare is infrastructure. And governments, we provide roads, we provide hospitals. We say, right, we have a declining birth rate. We say we support families. Where's the policy? Where's the money? Show me that. And then I'll believe that you actually care about supporting families.
I mean, if I had a magical wand, it would be free daycare. So, Javis.
Yeah, and
sorry, go ahead, Brandy.
I was going to say, for me in Seattle too, to piggyback on that, is before and after school care. The amount of friends I have whose kids went off to kindergarten and there were no before or after school programs, and they're starting school at 9 a.m. and on Fridays there's early release and they're getting off at noon. So it is so difficult.
Yeah, that's part of the, I would say, like the need for asynchronous work and asynchronous tools that allow us to catch up on work after hours and be there for our kids to pick them up and work offline and Slack on our phone if we need to and all of that. Because daycare or school schedules did not align with workplaces. Crazy. No. Who invented that shit? Javis, what's the most important system?
This one's hard. I talk a lot about financial infrastructure. So I guess I have to ground my answer in that, right? This idea that the parenting journey is so complex and so personalized, but in a lot of ways it is predictable. You know that you need to pay for labor and delivery. You know, you need to pay for postpartum support. You know that you'll need to pay for childcare. You know that you'll need to pay for education and enrichment. And we actually don't have any systems really to support parents that are thinking about those things in a very strategic and intentional way. It's really, what are you figuring out for yourself? What are you researching for yourself? What are the Reddit forums telling you? And again, when we compare that to retirement advisors and people that really help you with these bigger financial goals, you sort of wonder, what about parenting and this financial journey doesn't deserve that same kind of support and infrastructure? And if you get this right, actually all of the other chips kind of fall into place. You're more likely to be successful at work and have more income. You're more likely to save well for retirement. And so I think we need to build systems that sort of honor the lived reality, right? There might be career breaks. What does that mean for your financial life? You might become a mompreneur to navigate these earlier years. What does that mean for your financial picture? And to really build systems that help share information and help people sort of optimize these different financial paths that they're on.
Yeah, I love that. It is so important, the financial structure and the life and freedoms that you can have when you have that support in place. And then I might add, not about financials, but I might add more sleep training. because, and I know there's like a huge, I don't know if argument, but there's a split on sleep training your kids. But I would say sleep training your kids when you have to go back to work is so critical. I feel like that almost should be like a workplace benefit or something that you could get reimbursed, the sleep training programs, because like my daughter was waking up every hour right when I was going back to work and refused to sleep unless I held her and rocked her for 20 minutes. And then I'd finally get her to sleep and lay her down and she'd wake up 3 minutes later. And so I had to do sleep training so that I could go back to work. And so I feel like that would be the most important system for going back to work and
I love
that return to work transition.
I love that. I know of platforms that do that, and I think it's like so cool.
It should be a
delivered in the
workplace.
Yeah. I've seen like certain like group sessions that they can do, but I like your idea of like as a part of onboarding or some sort of personalized benefit, you have access to it. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Okay, I want to talk actionable, immediate steps that a parent can take to start building better systems for themselves, whether it's at work or at home, in life. What would be like a first step that they should do, in your opinion? And Talitha, I'm going to pass it over to you to go first.
Yeah, so I think this will probably depend family to family, but in our family, the first step that really mattered was, and something that like a system that we've carried through is almost like our own operations meeting every Sunday. And that's when we are taking a look, we're comparing calendars. We are taking a look at like what activities are on the go, who has meetings at what time. And that's when we're negotiating or deciding like who's going to do drop-offs and pickups. And I can't stress, especially if you are in a situation like me where I would be considered to have a flexible job. My husband has what is considered a greedy job. He works outside of the home. He travels internationally quite a bit. So I'm the default parent. And if I don't agree with him, predetermine what he's responsible for, everything will fall back on me because I have this illusion of capacity. And so I think that really brutal transparency with your partner around treating it like a little bit like a joint venture. It is, right? Like we have robust contract negotiations when we work in companies to decide who's going to do what, and not to be so clinical, but I think that that is really important in relationships where there is the tendency for one person to sort of fall into default parent mode and kind of pick up, quote unquote, the slack. Not that my husband is a slacker. He just works outside of the home more. So I think, that like or having like an ops meeting every week. And then, really, really like being very transparent. And I'm even like that with my clients as well, because there will be times when my kid is sick, daycare is closed, and he has to be in the background when I'm on a meeting. That's
I love it. I absolutely agree. And I don't do that. And I know my husband and I have like little things of like, I told you this. And I'll be like, if it's not on my calendar, it doesn't exist. And I'm like, did you though? And then I'll tell him something 4 times. And he's like, I don't know about that. And I'm like, I sent an email. So I love this, this ops meeting, like a weekly ops meeting idea. I think that's phenomenal and definitely going to be doing that. Brandy, what do you think?
Yeah, mine is more on the work side, and it's don't be afraid to ask. I think sometimes we're scared to have conversations, but the worst that someone can say is no. And I'm thinking back to I was interviewing for a company that I was so excited about, and I had just found out I was pregnant, which I didn't feel comfortable telling them right away. But I thought, if this is going to be my future and this is going to be an employer I'm going to stick with, either this is going to have them say no to me, and that wasn't my place anyways. But I told the recruiter that I was expecting and asked what the parental leave policy was, and I think it was only like 3 weeks. And I said I can't accept this offer if it's only 3 weeks. And so she was like, you know what? Let me go talk to leadership and let me get back to you. And I think she got back to me within 24 hours, and they expanded the policy to 4 months, 100% paid leave.
Wow.
Yeah, so, that policy wasn't in place until I asked. And so these conversations can make real change, and it's just really important to have them.
I love that. I mean, first of all, you're still bleeding at 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's insane.
Yeah. With my pregnancy, I was just starting to walk after 3 weeks. So
Exactly. So that's pretty crazy. Don't know who designed that or who wasn't designing that.
A man was designing.
Exactly. Yes. Very specifically.
Absent from that.
Yeah. And then the other piece is, create your own change that you want to see. If you want to see a caregiver support group, it doesn't even have to be a formal ERG. It can be like a Slack channel or a Teams channel for parents or moms. Just creating that community. Don't wait for leadership or HR to create it, because you don't want HR to own something like that anyways. So if you see a gap in resources or community support, raise your hand and create that, because I'm sure there's a lot of people that would find value and benefit from it.
I love that. And I just want to call out real quick before I go over to you, J-Vest, that Mackenzie talked about that at Clio. They do have sleep coaching as one of the benefits. And Natalie mentioned that their company Mommy Wise offers in-home sleep training support as an employee benefit also. So sounds like there's a couple companies that do it, and more companies need to hop on that train if they want functional women, adults, humans. And
again,
it
one of the
affects men
low-hanging
too.
fruit.
Yeah, I
One of
woke
the
up my
low-hanging
husband every
fruit
time
imaging stuff.
my baby would wake up in the night. I woke him up because I made him help. I was like, if I'm up, you're up. You can't sleep through it. And then he would fall back asleep after. But anyways, J-Vest, what's the first step? What's the most important first step to building a sustainable system?
I think that a suggestion might be, think about what it is that you need, and assume that somebody will do it. Like, assume that there's a product or a system or a tool that's out there specifically to solve this problem, because I speak to so many founders and so many companies, daily. That's part of the work that we do at Stork Fund, to aggregate all of these resources for parents. And I'm just so surprised at how much is out there that I know that parents don't know about or assume is like unaffordable. And so they do it themselves. And you can't do everything yourself at work or at home. And in the same way that you'd naturally think at work, well, who can I delegate this to? Is there another team that this kind of falls more appropriately within their domain? I think that thinking about that in the home as well might help you, again, just unlock some capacity for yourself. Just thinking, I can't be the only mom that is struggling with this. And probably everybody is. And so hopefully someone's been, interested enough to solve this. And I think you'll find that there is a platform out there that is trying to alleviate this challenge for yourself. And so if you start there, you might find that the solution is readily available. And then I would say, maybe just as a second thing, I think that when I speak to moms, they think about how expensive a thing is that they need, and they might write it off. But I think that there's another sort of approach to this, which is, well, if that's like maybe the A+ solution, is there an A- solution that gets you there? Or is there even a B+ solution that gets you there? Because every single thing you can unlock for yourself is so meaningful. It's literally like interest, it compounds. And I think for those of us that work in organizations or even work at startups, you might hear this phrase like 1% better every day, and how that just like improves where you are so exponentially. And I think the same thing for families, the same things for moms. If something doesn't solve the broader challenge that you have, but it solves a small piece of it, you might be surprised if you try it out that over time, it actually has such an even bigger impact than just the small piece that you thought.
I love that. And I think, the way I see what you've talked about is that we don't have to do it all ourselves and we can outsource, right? Like you said, there's probably a tool or a service or a product out there that someone's created. That's outsourcing our need and our help,
Mm-hmm.
like to get it from somewhere else, whether it's sleep training or a mom group or help with a billion other things. There's probably someone who's created a product out there
Yeah.
at this point, and that gets us some time and energy back so that we can use that to help us. And when I think about like the 1% better, I think of it as like, did I just do 1% of progress today that gets me towards my goal? And
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that is the bare minimum of I showered today. That's my 1% for the day. Sometimes it's I ate today.
Mm.
That's a win. That's 1%, you know? And so it's like, we don't have to do it all, and building systems that allow us to pick up some things elsewhere and let go of other things and delegate them or outsource them to others gives us the chance to do other things that are meaningful, that is contributing to 1% better or progress today. And so I love that. I'm all for that. And so I think that's phenomenal. What a phenomenal list of steps that really a parent can start taking today. I love that. And I think I want to wrap up with where can where can people find you? Are you open to taking on new clients, new partnerships? And where can people find you? Chavis, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, well, definitely feel free to visit our website, struckfunds.com. That's with an S. If you're a parent, if you're an aspiring parent, we help with your financial journey. We offer a high yield savings account. So not only are you saving, but you're getting all of these tools and tips and checklists and guides. We have a marketplace with providers that offer discounts. We help you figure out who you need and where to find them. I would like to say hello to Natalie from Mommy Wise. She's actually in our Stark market. So again,
Yay.
if you're looking for a sleep training, those are the kinds of tips and tricks and providers that we connect folks with. We're on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. I'd love to chat. Again, I speak to moms all the time. Hearing about what you're going through, what you're looking for in a financial partner, all of that is really great and interesting for us. So definitely please, reach out. Would love to connect with the folks that have been listening.
I love it. Thank you. Talitha, what about you?
Yeah, you guys can connect with me on LinkedIn. I love to talk about the realities of parenting in a village-less society, and all things like sales and business. So yeah, follow or connect with me on LinkedIn, and I'm looking forward to chatting more about this with anyone who wants to.
I love it.
DMs are
Yay.
open.
Yay. And last but not least, Brandy.
Yeah, I am pretty active on LinkedIn, and I am open to project-based work around employee experience, employer brand, really working with companies that are not afraid to shine the light into the dark, creaky places, because I really feel like when you ask and you listen and then you act, that's when true transformation happens. And I'm looking to work for leaders that are willing to do that.
I love that. That's really powerful. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us all today. And I just want to take a moment to pause before we really wrap up. I want to talk about this as this system sprint, but something that really kind of came up is that it's not about parents trying harder or doing more. It's about building smarter systems at home and at work, systems that make caregiving more visible and possible in its whole self, systems that make flexibility more normal, systems that make parenthood more affordable and sustainable, and the ripple effects that supporting parents has across families and whole companies. And I think this is really about working together to create just systems that support the person as a whole, so that you don't have to hide part of yourself and your life and make it harder to exist in a fraction of the day. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for bringing all of your energy and your honesty. You guys are amazing panelists. And to everyone watching, please keep this conversation going at your workplaces, in your communities, at homes. Have that weekly ops meeting. Highly suggested. I know I will. And that's it. I'm Alexa Starks, and this has been our Beyond Boundaries, a Systems Sprint event. And let's keep reshaping working parenthood, one system and conversation at a time.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, guys.